Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Steve. Look, I told you guys as soon as the playoffs start, I have a whole bunch of awesome content for you guys. So this is going to kick off the summer of 2017. It is officially NBA history time. Now, NBA history month for me, obviously on this channel, is all of July and all of August. So not really 1 month. Let's just call it NBA history summer. Whatever. That's besides the point. This fact about the NBA will make you question everything you've ever thought of. This will make you think and just question every single damn thing you have ever thought of in terms of the NBA. Look, this is going to blow your mind, so let's just get straight to the point. Now, when you think of the greatest player of all time, there are usually 5 names that pop up. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bean Bryant, Magic Johnson, or Larry Bird. Some people say Kareem, some people say Wilt, some people say Bill, but for the most part, it's Michael, LeBron, Kobe, MJ, which is Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird. Now, when you think of these players, you're probably thinking, well, they got to where they are because they're just so dominant and so skilled. But you have to understand that there are so many great players that have been so skilled throughout their career, but just haven't had the luck that these players have had. Now, don't get me wrong, not taking shots at LeBron, not taking shots at MJ. Okay, I'm just trying to prove to you guys that a lot of their success in terms of being the greatest ever came down to a lot of luck at the same time. So we're going to go through some of the best drafts in NBA history: 1984, 1996, 1997. We're going to go through 2003, and we're also going to talk about 2007. Now, let's talk about 1984. Obviously, Hakeem Olajuwon was drafted number 1 to the Houston Rockets. Number 1 to the Houston Rockets. Sam Bowie was number 2, and Michael Jeffrey Jordan was number 3. Now, Charles Barkley was number 5, and John Stockton was number 16 for the Utah Jazz. Now, let's talk about John Stockton and the Utah Jazz. Now, I don't know much about Karl Malone. Well, I do, but I don't want to try and remember that at this point in time because I don't want to forget what I already have planned on saying. I don't write my stuff down. This is all off the top of the head, so it's, fluid and it sounds real. I don't want to sound like a robot. Anyway, whatever. So, John Stockton. If John Stockton never got drafted to the Utah Jazz, him and Karl Malone would have never had those runs against the Chicago Bulls. Now let's keep moving on. If Hakeem Olajuwon never got drafted first to the Houston Rockets, and instead he got drafted second to the Portland Trail Blazers, and Michael Jordan got drafted first to the Houston Rockets, there may have never been the Michael Jeffrey Jordan that we have today. What I mean by that is there might not be MJ the GOAT. There might be no MJ shoes. There might be no MJ clothing, attire. He may not be a billionaire at this point in time if he were not drafted 3rd to the Chicago Bulls. He got extremely lucky because if you think about it, first of all, he got the luck of playing in the Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference. And this Eastern Conference was during an expansion era when he started to win his championship. Again, I'm not taking shots. I'm just trying to show how lucky some of these players were in terms of being the greatest ever. But that's besides the point. Just hear me out. Look, if Michael Jordan were not drafted 3rd to the Chicago Bulls, he would have never lost to the Detroit Pistons, the bad boy Pistons with Isaiah Thomas, and then the Boston Celtics and Larry Bird. Okay? And if he didn't go through that, he may have never developed and gotten better to the level that he is now. There's a reason why he hates Isaiah Thomas. Go to that All-Star game when Isaiah Thomas tried to congratulate MJ, and MJ said, "Why are you even coming up to me? Why are you talking to me? Why are you even close to me? Why are you looking at me? I don't want to be bothered with you. I don't even want to be bothered with you. Don't come near me." Okay? So Michael Jordan, if he didn't go through the Celtics, if he didn't lose to the Celtics, if he didn't lose to the Detroit Pistons, he would not have been as great as he is. Because if you guys look through history, in 2011 when LeBron choked, what happened? He came back better than ever and he took the league. He snatched everything from the league and said, look, I may have messed up, but it's my league now. That is what LeBron James did. Absolutely ridiculous. But that's not even it. That's not even it, okay? Let's go on and let's talk about the 1996 NBA draft. Allen Iverson was obviously drafted number 1 out of Georgetown to the Philadelphia 76ers. I believe it was Marcus Camby as number 2. I don't remember number 3. Marbury was 4. Ray Allen was 5. I think Antoine Walker was 6. And I only know that because I think he played with Miami. Kobe was 13. I think Nash was either 15 or 16, but that's besides the point. The point is that if Kobe Bryant weren't drafted 13, he would have never been traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, which means he would have never won 3 NBA championships with Shaquille O'Neal. Possibly the Shaq trade may have never even happened. Okay, so he would have never, possibly he would have never even went to LA. Kobe would have been a part of some other team. Let's say Kobe was drafted to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers had the 12th pick in the 1996 NBA draft. So if Kobe Bryant were drafted to the Cleveland Cavaliers, what would that do for LeBron James coming into the league in 2003? The Cavaliers would either have to keep Kobe and draft LeBron, or trade Kobe, try to get assets to build around LeBron, because there was a poll asking GMs, would you trade your best player for LeBron? And I believe only 5 out of the 30 GMs in the league, 25 out of the 30 said they would trade their best player in order to get LeBron. That's what they said. It's ridiculous. In order to get the draft pick to get LeBron. That's crazy. Okay? So they could have kept Kobe. Kobe and LeBron could have been on the same team. You see how all of these things, all it would have taken was Kobe to be drafted 12th or 11th or 10th, and he probably wouldn't even be who he is now. That's how crazy this is. A lot of luck comes into play. If Allen Iverson, instead of getting drafted number 1 to the Philadelphia 76ers, and he got drafted number 13, him and Kobe switched places. Kobe got drafted number 1 to the Sixers, which is where he was actually from, and Allen Iverson got drafted number 13 to the Charlotte Hornets. Obviously, that wouldn't have happened because he was obviously the greatest player at that point coming out of Georgetown. But if he did, then AI would be the one with at least 3 championships. The reason why I say at least 3, because you never know what would have happened after they signed draft or traded for Pau Gasol, drafted Andrew Bynum, had Derek Fisher and all this other crap. Derek Fisher probably wouldn't have even been there because of Allen Iverson. All of this comes into play. This is mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. It shows you that one draft later or one pick later, and your entire career could have been different. That has to blow your mind. For example, Ray Allen. Ray Allen was drafted number 5, and Marbury was drafted number 4. They both were traded. Obviously, the Milwaukee Bucks traded Stephon Marbury for Ray Allen to the Minnesota Timberwolves. If Ray Allen didn't get traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, him and Kevin Garnett, who I believe was drafted in 97 or 95, one of those two, I'm pretty sure it's 97, Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen would have been on the same team in Minnesota in their prime. That's how crazy one draft pick, one selection later is. That's how crazy this is. Now let's look at the 1997 NBA draft. Number 1, the San Antonio Spurs, Tim Duncan. If Tim Duncan were selected 2nd to the Philadelphia 76ers and not 1st to the Spurs, there may not be the Tim Duncan that we know of now. Tim Duncan may have just been another, I don't know, take this with a grain of salt because I'm not disrespecting anyone, but he could have just been another player that had 5-6 good years in the league, but his team never won. He could have been that. But no, he was drafted to the Spurs, and if he wasn't, where would he be now? What if he was drafted 2nd? What if Chauncey Billups, who was drafted to Boston number 3, was drafted number 1 to the Spurs, and Tim Duncan was drafted to the Celtics? What would have happened? What if Tracy McGrady wasn't drafted to the Toronto Raptors? I don't remember exactly which draft pick the Raptors had when they selected McGrady. I think it was either 7th, 8th, 9th, something like that. 9th, 10th, around there. You know, what would have happened? T-Mac would have never got traded to Orlando. He would have never got traded to Houston later on. I mean, come on. You know, what if Tracy McGrady were the one drafted to the Spurs? Could you imagine Tracy McGrady, if he were drafted to the Spurs, he never got injured. And this, when the Spurs won the majority of their championships, from 97 to 2007, Tracy McGrady, in that period, averaged around 30 points per game. This dude was a freaking beast. Could you imagine if that were T-Mac on the Spurs instead of Tim Duncan? It were T-Mac, Manu, and Tony. Could you imagine that? Bruce Bowen and the rest of Greg Pop? I mean, God. Now let's look at one of the greatest draft. These are all some of the greatest draft picks, draft classes ever. But let's look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's look at the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 2003 NBA draft. What if, well, let's not use LeBron because obviously LeBron was going to get drafted regardless, number one. But let's say, for example, if Melo didn't get drafted number 3 to Denver, but he got drafted number 2 to the Detroit Pistons, could you imagine? Melo would have had 3 NBA championships by now. The Pistons would have 3. The Pistons won the same season Melo, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh were in their rookie year. That's when the Detroit Pistons beat the Lakers in, I believe it was 5 games. Could you imagine if they had Melo instead of Darko? They would have went back to back to back, possibly to back. It was ridiculous. Chauncey was still good enough around 08, 09. And that was 4 years after they won the championship. Chauncey was in Denver with Melo. Could you imagine if Melo got drafted to the Pistons? Melo would be a top 10 player ever. People would be saying Melo's one of the, well, people already say that, but people would be saying Melo's one of the 5 to 10 greatest players to ever play. But no one says that because he was drafted 3rd and he never won a championship. That is how crazy one draft pick later can change the course of someone's career. Could you imagine if if Melo were drafted 2nd, Chris Bosh were drafted to the Nuggets, and Dwyane Wade was drafted to the Raptors with Vince Carter? Could you imagine D. Wade, athletic prime D. Wade as the point? Use this as a great example. Imagine Carmelo Anthony was drafted number 2 to the Detroit Pistons, and let's say they won 2 or 3 in a row. Let's say 3 maximum, okay? 3 championships in a row they won. Okay, so when LeBron went to the Miami Heat in 2010, possibly he would have went somewhere else. Possibly, instead of Miami, he would have went to the Detroit Pistons. Could you imagine that? But it's not even just that. It has a ripple effect on the league. If Melo were on the Detroit Pistons, LeBron would have never did what he did against the Pistons in 2007, 25 straight points. That would have never happened because they probably would have met in the conference finals. Well, I think they did. But the point is that it would have a ripple effect on the entire league. And then if LeBron joined Melo in Detroit, or Melo said, you know what, I'll come to Cleveland. You got Mo. You guys just, when LeBron left the season prior in 08-09, they were 66-16, and then 09-10, they were 61-21. So imagine Melo said, all right, you got Mo Williams, Anderson Varejao, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Anton Jameson, who used to play for the Washington Wizards, who used to be really good. They also had Shaquille O'Neal at the time, get the king a ring. Remember, Shaq said that. It never happened because Shaq was old and he was a bum at that point in time. But the point is that Melo possibly would have joined LeBron, or LeBron would have joined Melo regardless. Let's say the Cavs won 2 championships in a row, 2 or 3 championships in a row. That means Melo would have had 6 NBA championships. 6. You can say the same thing with Kobe. If Kobe were not drafted to the Charlotte Hornets, he would have never won 3 in a row with Shaquille O'Neal. He would not be listed as a top 5 to top 10 player that he is right now. That is how crazy one draft pick later or one selection later can change someone's career. That is how important it is. And this is why I say this whole and again, this isn't a shot at anybody, but when you bring up who is the greatest player of all time, and then you give the stupid example of Michael Jordan because he is 6-0 in the NBA Finals. Remember this video when someone brings that up. Explain to them how much luck plays into winning a championship. Could you imagine if the Oklahoma City Thunder never traded James Harden? I mean, you want to talk about a dynasty? Look at Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Stephen Curry, all drafted by the Golden State Warriors, primarily Jerry West, who's now with the Los Angeles Clippers. And now they have Kevin Durant. I mean, could you imagine if James Harden were to... Let's forget about everything. Let's say all the drafts were the same. Okay, up to this date. But the only thing that changed about the NBA is that James Harden was never traded from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Do you think Kevin Durant would be on Golden State right now? I don't think so. That is how crazy of an impact a single event like that can cause. It has, like the butterfly effect, the snowball effect, the ripple effect. All of those are the same. They all come into play. We should name this the Steve effect, because this video should open everyone's mind that 6-0 or 5-4, or what is Kobe? 5-2 or 5-2 or 3-5, whatever the hell it is, should not play a major impact on judging who's the greatest players of all time. Let's look at what players bring to the table, and let's stop talking about a team accomplishment. Because last time I checked, if Michael Jordan were the greatest of all time, he should be able to win an NBA championship without Scottie Pippen, or at least make it out the first round without Pippen. If LeBron were so damn good and the greatest of all time, then he should be able to win an NBA championship without Dwyane Wade, without Chris Bosh, without Kyrie, without Kevin Love. Okay? If Dwyane Wade's different because he actually did it by himself, but that's how crazy things turn into. Imagine if Dwyane Wade never got injured. You see, this is why this whole championship, MJ 6-0, LeBron's 3-5, Kobe's 5-2. This is why he's better than him. This is why this guy's better than this guy. Bull crap. Who's the best all-around player? Who makes his teammates better? That should come first, and then accomplishments after. I'm not saying accomplishments don't matter, but I'm saying what should come first. Not if someone says who's the greatest player of all time. Oh, Michael Jordan, because he's 6-0 in the finals. Okay, but 6-0. So Robert Horry has 7 titles. Does that make him the greatest ever? You see my point? So the whole purpose of this video is just to open people's minds so people realize. So people can finally realize that a lot of luck comes into play. The point is that Melo could have been MJ. LeBron could have been MJ. Tracy McGrady could have been MJ. A lot of luck comes into play in terms of winning. Now, I'm not taking shots at anybody. I'm not. Okay? I'm not taking shots at anybody. But I'll sit here and I'll tell you this. A lot of luck turns into play. So, there you have it. If Melo were drafted second, he could possibly be a top 5 player of all time right now. If Tracy McGrady never got injured, he could possibly be a top 5 player of all time right now. If Kobe never got drafted to the Charlotte Hornets and got traded to the Lakers, he could possibly not even be talked about right now. That's how crazy it is, because think about it. If Kobe were drafted to, let's see, what team was dominant in 96? Let's say Kobe Bryant were drafted to the Chicago Bulls. Kobe's coming off the bench, no doubt about it. 2-guard, obviously MJ is going to be there, right? So maybe Kobe would have never gotten the opportunity. And then being a bench player, maybe he would have never had the chance of airballing against the Utah Jazz and going through all those trials and tribulations and then getting better. Maybe that would have never happened and we would not know Kobe to be Kobe right now, is my point. Or maybe Kobe were drafted in the same situation as LeBron to where his team didn't get him a superstar and in fact possibly the greatest player in the world at the time of Shaquille O'Neal. You see my point? A lot of luck comes into play. But people don't consider that. People just say, oh, 6-0, oh, 5-2, oh, 5-4, oh, 3-5, or oh, 4-1, whatever. 1-7, Jerry Wagner, whatever. A lot of luck comes into play. So consider that. It's been your man, Steve. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like this video. You know how I do. Anyway, I just want to let you guys know that I still believe Melo's going to get traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Anyway, that's besides the point. I'm out. Peace.